They also said I wasn't allowed to do the dance because she owns the kangaroo dance. That one did puzzle me.
Of all of the things to not be surprised about, I am the most not surprised about this of all. Hi, my name is Sydney, welcome back to hell. And as per usual, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Fume. And you guys know the drill. It's also sponsored by me and my company, Lions Tea Exchange. A reminder once again that I only have literally a couple boxes of my limited edition bourbon barrel chai left, and the other two winter flavors are also almost gone, so if you want a box, I recommend grabbing one now. Also, my ugly boxes are live on the site. These are boxes that have had a bit of a rough journey, maybe they got a bit mushed in transit, maybe they're misprinted, and I don't want to have to waste them, I don't want to throw them away, I don't want to run a business like that, so instead we've popped them on the site at a larger discount. The tea inside is still great, it's still perfectly fine, the box just looks a little bit wonky. So I will link everything in the description box and you can definitely go check it out. Also, of course, before we get into this video, very Merry Christmas to all of you, and I hope that this Christmas period has been safe and well and wonderful and all the good things, and I hope you all get what you asked for from Santa, because that's also very fun. I think we've all had a bit of a weird 2024, so, you know, don't be afraid to kick your feet up and have a nice drink, especially if it's a cup of tea. More specifically, my tea. Okay, no, I won't go down that road. No, jokes aside, be safe, be well, make good choices, and yeah, we're just gonna do the video now. Now, I am sure that most of you remember that a couple months ago, I made not one, but two videos about an Australian breakdancer called Rachel Gunn, also known by her stage name Raygun, because she participated in the Paris Olympic Games. Again, as the majority of you probably remember, Gunn's performance was so unbelievably bad that she not only won 0 points, but she also catapulted herself to international infamy, shall we say. Basically overnight. And yes, the clips I am using of this are AI and not the original clips from the actual event because as a lot of you probably know, when I used those previously, they got copyright claimed. So thank you for that, Raygun. Anyway, clips of her routine went mega viral and the whole thing started a huge amount of commentary around breakdancing in the Olympics generally, and whether or not Gunn herself was a national embarrassment to Australia. Naturally, considering that I am in fact Australian, I felt a need to weigh in and give my 2 cents because what was that? The first video I made basically went over the path that led Rachel Gunn to the Olympics and some of the other bits and pieces that went along with that. And then because a bunch of clips in that video got copyright claimed, I made another one because I was feeling very put out by that. And by put out, I mean that I was really mad. I also suspected that Gunn herself had some kind of input in getting those specific clips copyright claimed, not just for me, but also for other creators who used them as well, but more on that later. Now, after all of the Olympics controversy, I genuinely thought that that would kind of be the end of the infamy road for our Australian breakdancing queen, that she would just kind of dissolve and fade into nothingness and go gently into that good night. But boy was I wrong! Instead, this person who I originally thought was just some goofy lady who, despite her good intentions, is terrible at breakdancing, has turned out to be, it appears, a disingenuous monster. Really, it's crazy. Who could have predicted this? I don't know why I'm saying that like I did, because I definitely didn't. I just thought she would go away, and that would be that. To put it simply, Rachel Gunn and her legal team, as she likes to say, have spent the last number of weeks terrorizing a small Australian comedian, threatening a comedy club owner from whom they are trying to extort, or tried to extort, $10,000. They effectively stopped proceeds from going to a women's shelter in Sydney and have asserted multiple copyright and trademark claims, but one specifically that revolves around the choreography scene at the Olympics, and more specifically, the kangaroo hop. All while making several very disingenuous and bizarre videos on social media, trying to justify all of this.
We were totally blindsided. I said before, it's not about the money, and it is still not about the money.
You guys don't know how sad it makes me that this new chair doesn't go back really at all, because it's kind of ruined one of the fun shots that I used to do, and now I can't do it. Now I just have to sit upright, like a corpse. When I do this, just pretend that I'm one of those corpses at the top of Mount Everest that's frozen in place and has to be like this the whole time. Anyway, honestly, watching all of this unfold has been pretty staggering, considering that this woman went from being a virtual nobody to a fun and goofy, jovial figure to a litigious person using the justice system to bully and harass a small-time comedian from making a comedy show. This whole situation is a lot of things, but it's definitely absurd, and I want to talk about it because it's my channel and we do what I want here. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how Australia's worst breakdancer took what little fame and goodwill she had among the Australian people and decided instead to become an insufferable monster. But before you once again board my hell gondola and together we sail down this river of weirdness and bizarre accents into whatever the hell this story is, let's hear from today's sponsor, Fume. Hey you! I really care about your health. Thank you? I care about you not breathing in toxic chemicals and making your lungs cry. I care about you breaking your bad habit without going mad in the process. Which is why I want to tell you about Fume. Fume is this award-winning flavored air device that is a leading alternative to vaping and other chemical-breathing activities. And unlike a vape, it has no heating components, no batteries, and no vapor, meaning there's no toxic chemicals or even nicotine getting into your body. Instead, Fume uses these nice little flavored cores that you simply pop into your Fume and go. There are a ton of flavor options available, my favorite being the crisp mint, but look at these raspberry lemons. They are pink and I love it. And because they've been rapidly expanding their range, in addition to their flagship Fume, they now have this beautiful Solano Fume, a magnetic base to house your device, and now even these little toppers. These provide a better mouthfeel and are good if you're a person who likes to nibble. Fume has been a wonderful friend of this channel and I genuinely love what they're all about. This device will make a great gift no matter the time of year for yourself or for a loved one. So if you too care about your health, then click the link in the description or go to tryfume.com/Sydney or scan the QR code on screen. And don't forget to use code Sydney to get your free Fume topper when you order a journey pack. And if you're lucky, you could even win one of Fume's limited edition gold-plated devices this holiday season. Now, this situation started a couple weeks ago on December 6, 2024, when comedian Stephanie Broadbridge announced that a parody musical she had planned, called Raygun the Musical, had been cancelled. The show was inspired by Gunn's breakdancing performance at the Olympics and was set to premiere on December 7th. In a video posted to Instagram, Broadbridge said that Rachel Gunn's lawyers had threatened the venue hosting her show with legal action and $10,000 in legal fees if the event was not terminated.
Hi, I'm comedian Steph Broadbridge. I'm just hanging out in my casual day wear. My trial show tonight for Raygun the Musical has been cancelled. Raygun's lawyers got in touch with the venue and threatened legal action, so we will be refunding everyone their $10 or comp ticket back. For that, her lawyers trademarked my poster, which is flattering. I hope they do something fun with that. And they were also worried that I was damaging her brand, which I would never do. She doesn't need me to do that. They also said I wasn't allowed to do the dance because she owns the kangaroo dance. That one did puzzle me. I mean, that's an Olympic level dance. How would I possibly be able to do that without any formal breakdancing training?
The event owner himself, Anthony Skinner, also weighed in at a later date and had this to say.
I'm never paying it. I'll go bankrupt before I give them a cent.
This is a sentiment that I can get behind and support. Attaboy. The original letter sent by Gunn's legal team, who are very professional people and who have handled this so professionally this entire time, made many claims, but these are the ones that stood out to me. The letter states that the word Raygun is now exclusively associated with their client. Okay. It also makes the claim that Gunn's choreography, as seen at the Olympics, is considered intellectual property, and if used, will be considered an infringement. And a silhouette image of Gunn from the Olympics is also copyrighted material. And just FYI, Broadbridge had originally advertised her show back on September 25th using a poster that showed the aforementioned silhouette, but more on that later. Am I too infringing copyright? Are my dance moves also infringing copyright? I think I'm gonna go ahead and buy the actual tracksuit associated with all of this because I have a feeling I'm gonna need it in future. Because when these people start acting like psychos in one situation, it's usually not the last situation. Now, in news that'll be absolutely no surprise to any of you, Australians really didn't do so well with this information, and they reacted about how you'd expect, with mockery and anger. And because these situations are almost always the gift that keeps on giving, it turned out that what I just described wasn't the end of the situation, and Gunn and her legal team took things a step further. The owner of the comedy club where this performance was set to take place, his name is Anthony Skinner, told Gunn's lawyers that only 70 tickets had been sold to the show, making a profit of $500. In an attempt to reconcile the issue, he offered them the $500, hoping that would square things away. They categorically said no and instead demanded that the comedy club owner reimburse Rachel Gunn $10,000 in legal fees to date. Yeah, because sending one legal letter definitely amounts to $10,000. Yeah, that's exactly how lawyers work. On top of that, it turns out that the $500 in question was actually raised as part of a charity effort for a local women's shelter. Because ain't that the cherry on this cake? You kind of have to love the irony in that Rachel Gunn, this cool, fun professor who cares so much about gender in breakdancing and writes about women accessing breakdancing and feminism and whatnot, is blocking money from getting to a women's shelter. Sometimes reality is the fiction I dream about. Now, again, like I said, people were not pleased by the situation, and I've seen a lot of commentary basically asking, why did you pick these people to go after? Like, why is this the hill that you've chosen to die on? Why haven't you gone after Jimmy Fallon or any other big figure who has mocked or done something satire-based or even just fully ripped off what Raygun has done? And these are some very good questions, probably because their lawyers are much better and will just laugh her out of the room. The blowback more or less forced Gunn to respond, so in two videos of her own, one on December 12th and the other on December 20th, she addressed the issue. I won't lie, her response doesn't make a ton of sense, and while there are elements to this story that I actually do get, that I can understand why she's done what she's done, overall, I don't really think that a lot of what she has to say adds up. I will also say that fellow Aussie YouTuber Lewis Spears was kind enough to send me all of the documents associated with the situation, so I've been able to read all of these for myself and find out exactly what Gunn's lawyers wrote initially. Lewis has also covered this topic and done a wonderful job doing so, so I will link his videos in the description box if you want to watch them as well. Now, during her first video, Rachel Gunn made the claim that she didn't even know that this parody musical was happening until December 6th when the Sydney Morning Herald published an article. As Lewis points out in his video on the issue, this is very interesting and a very interesting claim to make when you consider that on the very same day Stephanie Broadbridge announced the show, September 25th, Gunn applied to copyright the very same image Broadbridge used on her flyer. Okay, Rachel, you didn't know. We believe you. Gunn goes on to say that the news surrounding the musical made people believe she was associated with the event or had at least endorsed it, which hurt her personal and business-related relationships.
We were totally blindsided by this. And unfortunately, the blowback was quick. People assumed that we had developed it, that we had approved it, and it damaged many relationships, both personal and professional. So this is why my management and legal team had to work so quickly to shut the musical down.
Again, maybe it's because I am the Grinch. Maybe it's because I am Scrooge McDuck. Is that a thing, Scrooge McDuck? It doesn't matter. Maybe I am the one who is being a Scrooge here, but I don't believe this. I don't believe this for a second. You mean to tell me that a small-time comedian at a small-time comedy club doing a show to only a handful of people about someone's debut at the Olympics, which is being promoted as a parody, hurt relationships, both personal and business? Well, call me Scrooge McDuck, because I don't believe this. The other thing here that takes me out a little bit is that Australians have a long history of participating in banter and being able to take a joke. Or at least they used to, I don't know about now. Aussies also have a long history of making terrible parody musicals about figures and celebrities in our culture. We've had Shane Warne the musical, dedicated to our favorite cricket player, Keating, all about our 24th Prime Minister, and just last year, the ABC created a new series, Australian Epic, covering all sorts of classic Australian cultural moments through the medium of song and dance. And now, did you think that when the audiences went to watch a musical about the guy who used to run the country, they believed that he was directly involved in its production?
You have autism. You may not notice, but you do.
Yeah. Probably not. Anyway, nobody was looking at a parody musical advertised by a small comedy club and thinking, you know what, this thing that is 100% going to tease and make fun of Raygun in a fun manner, in a nice manner, is 100% backed by her. She is participating and she might even be directing it. Don't forget, Gunn claimed she had first heard about this performance from the Sydney Morning Herald article, which includes inspired in the headline. In fact, even the articles Gunn's lawyers included in their original letter also say that Raygun is getting a musical, not that she's making one or associated with one or whatever. I don't know how much clearer you can get. Seriously. Gunn does go on to say a bunch of other things in her first video, but for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to summarize the primary ones. She confirms that she did trademark her signature kangaroo pose, and this is about the only part of this that I can get behind. Gunn rightly points out that she did that because other people were trying to copyright her image and likeness to use for commercial purposes, and she wanted to protect herself. And frankly, this is actually something that I think is completely fair enough and a completely reasonable thing to do, because it's weird to consider that if you go viral or do something that's socially impactful, other people can come along and trademark things associated with you. That's just, I find that really bizarre. I'm sure there are those of you in the comments who are going to tell me why this is fine and normal, but I am of the view that if you do this to another person, you are a weirdo. And it's weird that this is okay. And honestly, to further defend Madam Flip-Floppy over here, she isn't even the first person to do this. Usain Bolt did the same thing with his lightning pose, and that cool Turkish, sharpshooting guy from the Paris Olympics also trademarked his own pose. So, you know, there's that. So I don't know what to tell you. I guess I support it. Make some merch and get that bag, girl. But this is unfortunately about where my understanding ends. Gunn also confirms here that despite what people are saying online, she did not trademark or try to trademark the kangaroo dance, which checks out because you can't trademark a dance. Her lawyers instead claimed that this was part of her copyrighted choreography. Now, to be clear here, when people have been talking about the kangaroo dance, they just mean this little hopping sequence. What Raygun has actually copyrighted, or what she claims to have copyrighted, is the Olympic level choreography that is a complex sequence of moves and techniques. Her copyright, just to be clear, amounts to the entire dance, if we can call it that. Because without getting into all of the nitty-gritty details of it, you can't copyright a little dance move like this if it's not part of a wider performance, and more importantly, the dance needs to be original. So let's say that you're another professional breakdancer and you just decide one day to rip off Raygun's entire performance, and then you record that and put it on YouTube in a totally serious, non-satirical, non-funny manner. Or maybe you use it as a, in another professional dance show. Why? I don't know. In this context, Raygun probably has good cause to come after you for just completely stealing her choreography. Like, fair enough. It's why you couldn't do an entire ballet without getting the rights to it. But as far as that kangaroo hop goes, it's nobody's original work. People have probably been hopping like kangaroos since the first Aboriginals laid eyes on them, and the Wiggles absolutely have been doing this for like 20 years. Honestly, ripping off the Wiggles feels pretty on brand for Raygun. The bottom line is that even if she wanted to, Rachel Gunn and her legal team would have a really hard time arguing this in court. Which her lawyers, if they were any good, should have known, and probably did know. But none of that mattered because they could leverage that the average person doesn't know this to scare the crap out of a small comedian and a comedy club owner. And that brings me to perhaps one of the most important parts of this, and something else that her lawyers also knew. You cannot legally stop a parody. The Australian 1968 Copyright Act clearly allows people to create satirical or parody performances without infringing copyright. So if Broadbridge at the end of her show decided to, in a dramatic finish, do the entirety of Raygun's choreography from start to finish, but did it within the grander context of her show, that's a satirical, parodic expression, and it's completely legal. To go a little Trumpy on you all for a second, this situation, what we're seeing here, is called the weaponization of the justice system. I think that's pretty clear when you consider this entire situation as a whole, where you have Raygun even saying herself that she didn't want to go to court and didn't want to take this comedy club owner and Stephanie Broadbridge to court, but like, why would you be going to court when parodies are completely fine? Everything makes me so annoyed. Obviously, I don't know what goes on in the head of Rachel Gunn or her legal team, but I am of the opinion, based on all the evidence available, that the exclusive and sole purpose here was to shut down this show. And I say that because I am of the view that if this really was just about protecting a piece of intellectual property, the trademark, that is the only part of this that I think really has any meaningful legal standing, they probably wouldn't have gone about it in such an extreme way. I get the impression from Rachel Gunn's second video that she's annoyed that the parody is allowed to continue but under a different name and with a different flyer and whatnot. I think it annoys her that people make fun of her as much as she likes to claim the alternative, as much as she likes to say that it doesn't bother her and she can have a laugh about all of this. I just don't get the impression that she can. And the thing that makes me so mad about this second video that Rachel Gunn made is that she says that she basically forced Stephanie Broadbridge to apologize publicly. Now, she is also apologizing, but she spends a lot of the time trying to distance herself from this entire situation and acts as if her lawyers just act of their own accord, just do what they want and act of their own volition. She claims that they haven't sought any legal costs from the situation, which again is untrue, as written here at the bottom of this second letter that clearly states, "You will reimburse our client with legal costs to date, which we estimate to be $10,000.
We have not sought any costs from all this. So there's a lot of talk around this $10,000. That was from really early on. Day one, my lawyers were acting on my behalf. They'd sent out letters, and, they asked for a response by a certain time. They didn't hear a response, and, we were worried that we might have to go to court. Obviously, no one wants that. And so the 10K would just be my potential legal costs if we had to go to court.
Gunn makes it sound like her lawyers were going rogue and just doing whatever they wanted, which is probably not the case, given that they have an obligation to run things past their client. So although Gunn tries to distance herself from this, she certainly knew what was taking place, even if she didn't know what was specifically being said. The bottom line for me here with this situation is that I fully respect and endorse people protecting their intellectual property, even if that intellectual property is a goofy, bizarro breakdancing thing. However, this situation feels malicious in a way that I can't quite explain. And as an aside, something that I think is really sad is that Rachel Gunn, despite going viral for being goofy, had the opportunity to become a really well-liked national icon. Australian celebrities, to their credit, take goofy situations and silly situations and flip them and make them positive all the time and become known for those things. But she's for some reason decided to go in the opposite direction, and honestly I find that really disappointing. The upshot of this situation is that Stephanie Broadbridge ended up changing the name of her show and changed the flyer. It now looks like this, and she's still going on the road, and honestly it'll probably do better now because of all this publicity. But I think for Rachel Gunn, the damage is done. Pardon the rhyming. Regardless if there was a legitimate claim to this entire situation, on a public consciousness level, she has unfortunately painted herself as a petty person, willing and attempting to go after small creators and small business owners. So whatever goodwill she may have had with Aussies, and I'm not sure how much was left before the situation popped off, that is well and truly gone. Ultimately, Rachel Gunn does have the right to conduct herself and her business however she sees fit. But I'm not so sure that this situation needed to play out this way at all, and frankly, I don't think this is going to be the last that we hear from her with relation to something like this. Now, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Fume using the link in the description. They have been a longtime friend of this channel, so if this is something that you want to check out, I recommend doing so. I love them, I think they're wonderful, and they are worth supporting as a company. Now I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Do you believe that Rachel Gunn and her team have a fair claim here? Do you think that they're just doing business as usual and you can't use copyrighted stuff, you can't use trademarks, and this was the only way to go about it, to shut down this show and to tell this comedian, no, 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 ma'am, you will not? Do you think that she's in the wrong and this was just such a crazy thing to do to begin with, and she could have handled it so much more professionally and with so much more grace? Do you think that really we don't have enough information to weigh in and all of this is speculative? What do you think of what Stephanie Broadbridge has to say about this? Do you think that her show would have been funny? Do you think it would have been insulting? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here and you are not subscribed already and you would like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel because it really helps. And also, if you want, you can leave me a like and a comment because I do read the majority of your comments and I always like hearing your feedback. Of course, have a very, very Merry Christmas, all of you. Once again, I hope you all stay very safe and very well. Eat lots of yummy food, open lovely presents, be with family, enjoy yourselves, and I will see you wonderful, beautiful, pretty, pretty people in the next video.